Welcome everybody. I'm working on this Gorgar. Tell you about a little interesting issue I had with it. So this game came in, wouldn't work, wouldn't boot up. So I started probing around looking at the power supply. That's Django. He's talking to me. He didn't like whoever's walking out in the parking lot. Anyway, so the power supply. So the power supply had all the original caps in there. So I pulled the board, put in new caps, reflowed the solder, and sure enough, the game would boot. Well, occasionally it would boot about half the time, and it wasn't stable. It would only run for maybe 30 seconds or maybe 5 minutes, but it would ultimately crash. Started probing around and looking, and I had this tremendously large AC ripple. So I was measuring the ground here on the ground cable here, and measuring different points on here. You know, you can measure the voltage here, you know, all these different, the solenoid voltages, and you know, the voltage that turns into the 5-volt here, even the 5-volt. And I had a 14-volt AC ripple on there. So what's going on? Turns out the back box here that all these boards are tied to, they determine the ground from. I had a 14-volt ripple, 14-volt AC ripple between the back box and the rest of the cabinet. So this back box here was not grounded to the sides. The sides were grounded, both sides, but the back box wasn't. So I had this huge ripple. So the game was actually booting though. I mean, sometimes. So all these boards were on this. The ground had this 14-volt ripple. On top of this ripple, you had the 5-volt signal that all the chips operate. You know, the chips are 5-volt. They're either high or they're low, but that little 5-volt is fairly small compared to this 14-volt that they're riding upon. But they kind of operated. They got a little seasickness going up and down and up and down. They didn't like it very much, but they tolerated it a little bit. The solution was simple, though. I mean, all you had to do was ground this to this. It was supposed to be grounded, but from the factory, but somehow it wasn't grounded. A simple solution, though. Django doesn't like what's going on. Sorry about that. Oh, one more thing I'll show you. On all these old classic Williams, these two rectifiers were not grounded from the factory not fused from the factory. They should be. These will be. So they'll each get a little 8-volt fuse over here. All you gotta do is pull one of the AC leads off. Like this is an AC lead and that's an AC lead. Take that, run it to a fuse, 8-volt fuse, and then back over there. These are not fused. The only fuse that these are fused to is the inline fuse for the game. So these will, I don't know if they'll burn the house down, but they'll burn the wires up. You'll wish it was fused if those rectifiers go, and occasionally they do. Anyway, adios.